All right, Prop the Mic, PTM, Dave and Tom here, coming to you live with the Bi-Coastal Podcast from New York and LA. It's feeling like fall here in LA. We got a brisk, windy Friday morning that feels like perfect football weather, so I'm feeling energized, ready to talk through Sunday's NFL slate with you. First, though, today, I don't know if you realize this, is the second anniversary of the first Prop the Mic podcast. So I just wanted to say happy anniversary to you, Dave. We've come a long way. Super proud of what we've built over the last 2 years. But this is just the beginning. We got a lot more to go. But thank you all for your continued support. We couldn't have done it without you. Before we nerd out on some football data, though, we got some big news. You all know Props.cash has been a longtime sponsor of Prop the Mic, and we 100% could not do what we do without the tools they provide. And we want all of our viewers to see for themselves the power of Props.cash when it comes to researching their bets. So for a limited time only, we've teamed up with Props.cash to offer PTM listeners an exclusive 50% off discount on their first month of Props.cash. This is a great opportunity to check out the tools, see just how much Props.cash can help elevate your prop betting game. So get in while you can. This is a limited time offer. Sign up using code PTM50 to get 50% off your first month. Again, that's code PTM50 for 50% off your first month of Props.cash. One more quick thing before we get started. Just wanted to shout out the PTM Discord. We're just hitting our stride over here with the NFL season. We got NBA right around the corner coming up next week. So hit the link in our bio to join the PTM VIP Discord and start cashing with us this weekend. What's going on, Dave? All this stuff got you excited?
Yeah, man. Sometimes, you talk about percentages. Props.cash is already cheap to on a monthly basis, $20 a month compared to some of the other tools out there charging hundreds of dollars a month. It's already a good deal. And then you get a 50% off. You could basically try it out for a full month for $10. Really doesn't get better than that. So we've been subscribing for years, even before we were doing PTM. So I would definitely recommend you guys give it a shot. It's definitely a really good deal. And let's go. Let's talk about football. You ready?
Let's go. We're going to leave that promo code up there the whole time during this pod. So in case any of you missed the intro, it's up there on the screen. Code PTM50, 50% off your first month. Let's rock.
All right. So first off, last night was exactly what we thought it would be. Just a horrendous game. There was some promise, right? Like we had Bo Nix. That was the first play that we had put out there. That was looking real good. In the first half, I think he had 130 passing yards. We just needed 185. And then he did nothing in the second half because it was a total blowout. We did hit one of our builders in the first half. That was over plus 130, I think it was.
Yeah.
So that was really nice. I don't know, man. It was exactly what we thought it was. So we played relatively light. We walked away, down a fraction of a unit. Move on to the full slate. I'm ready to actually watch a real football game with real players that I've actually heard of.
Yes, this is it was a Thursday night game with some garbage.
Some garbage. All right, so let's dive into the main slate for Sunday. We do have, I think it's about 10 games, and we do have a London game, which Tom is not very excited about. So we're not going to spend a lot of time talking about the London game, but we do have the Pats 1-5 against the Jags 1-5, which is probably why Tom's not very excited. Jags are -6 at home. Their new abroad home. Total's 41.5, so low scoring game. Not even going to do a deep dive on this. There's just two guys that I think are good looks to consider. Evan Ingram back from injury. He was on fire last week. I think he had 10 receptions or something like that. I don't even have his stats in front of me, but his reception line is 46.5. The Patriots are giving up the 11th most receiving yards to opposing tight ends. He seems to be the tight end or even maybe even the wide receiver number one number one option for Trevor Lawrence. So I like him. I also like Gabe Davis. New England's also given up the 10th most receiving yards to opposing wide receivers. His line is 32.5. So those are really the two looks, more of a lean than a play, but just wanted to make sure we hit that one since some people wake up, at 9 in the morning to watch those games. Others on the West Coast
or 6 a.m.
Yeah, others like you will probably just, be eating your breakfast in the fourth quarter.
Yeah. Let's pull up that props.cash again. Just one other thing I want to point. If we're going to talk about this game, then I got to talk about one other thing for this game.
Okay, you told me you didn't want to talk about this game. Now you want to talk
didn't,
about this game.
but we the matchup for running back receptions against Jacksonville is like just too juicy to pass up. So I don't think there's any lines out yet to look at, but we can look at the comps against Jacksonville. So just click on one of the receivers, click on, I don't know, Hunter Henry, and go over there, switch over to running backs. Look at all those green checks. They've allowed, I think, like they've allowed the fourth most targets, second most receptions, second most receiving yards to opposing running backs. That dates all the way back to last season. They were actually the number one defense to target opposing running back receptions against last season, and it's continued to this season. So if you see something for Ramondre Stevenson or who else is in Antonio Gibson on New England, keep an eye out for those guys.
Yeah, I think that's a good look. So we'll probably take that. We'll maybe put it with an alted down line for Ingram and get some play out on that one in the Discord.
Yeah.
But let's move on to our first game. I know you got one play for Tennessee Buffalo. Tennessee's a depressing 1-4 on this season. Buffalo is on the rise, and they just added Amari Cooper, so they're looking even better. Buffalo's -9 at home, 4-2 record. Total is 40.5 in this game, so not a ton of scoring. But what's the one look that you have in this game?
So just same thing we were just looking at against Jacksonville. Buffalo this season is tops in running back receptions. They've allowed the most targets, the most receptions, the most receiving yards to opposing running backs. So I think we can look at, even though the hit rates aren't great for Tony Pollard here, 21.5 receiving yards. I think the matchup is prime. I mean, look at Breece Hall, 56. Gumbawale, 57, Justice Hill, 78, Achane, 69. So I think this is a nice spot for Pollard to go over. I love his 3 receptions. You can get him at 3 receptions. I think that's a great leg to a builder. I think his line's 3.5. Yeah. Look at all those green check marks there.
I feel like I like the reset for these like teams that are just really not that good. Like AKA the Saints last night, with Kamara getting 6 catches for what was it, like 14 yards or something. that to me is the better look for these running backs. I think I could see him, snagging 4 or 5 catches in this game and getting nowhere with it. So let's maybe that's also a nice leg at 3 receptions. So we'll work on something with that one as well.
All right. Yep.
All right, let's go to a more exciting game. We got Houston 5-1 going into Lambeau. Green Bay Packers 4-2. Green Bay is -2.5, and the total is nice, 47.5 in this game. Matchup wise, what do you like in this one, Tom?
So this game, I like Jordan Love in this game. So if you look, the Texans really have not been great on the road. They're a very different team. They almost lost to the Colts week 1. Colts put up Anthony Richardson, and the Colts put up 27 points on them in that week 1 game. Then in week 3, they went to Minnesota, got absolutely demolished by the Vikings. I think the score was 34-7 in that game. And then last week, the only other road game of the season, they went to New England, and Drake May dropped 243 yards. His line was 165 going into that game. He was 20 of 33 passing in that game at New England last week. So I like Jordan Love over 248.5 passing yards. He's done it, you can see, 3 of 4 games this season. If you click over to him at home, 6 straight games at home. So he does well at home. Houston doesn't do so well on the road. And I think, you see CJ Stroud's line is even higher. I think like look at those comps there. You only have Drake May that went over. Every other one was a red X, right? And if you click over to CJ Stroud, you're going to see the complete opposite. You're going to see every single quarterback has cleared their line against Green Bay. So you'd think that's a good matchup, but I just feel like I think people will be on CJ Stroud when this is actually going to be the Jordan Love game here.
Wow. You're zigging when everyone's zagging. I love it.
Yeah, look at him on the road. Look at him on the road. Click all and look at Stroud on the road. I don't know if I'm fading Stroud here, but that does seem high, 258. Like, look at that. And if you click at home, it's like his hit rate is amazing. So
I would love. I do think he's good for 200 yards in this game. I just think the total's too high for him not to move the ball in this game. But
you got Nico
I do
Collins
agree with
out.
You.
Yeah,
you're right. Collins probably accounts for 70% of his yards this season. Right? I mean, in the games that he played. So, all right. Good. I think one other look on Love, just a thought. You and I had talked about this a few days ago, but I think rushing yards is also an interesting look for Jordan Love. If you look on the season, he's only played in 4 games because he was out with the injury. But since he's returned from the injury, he's cleared 8.5 rushing yards in 2 of 3 games. And if you look at opposing quarterbacks against Houston, it's a really good look, right? You got Anthony Richardson with 56, Caleb Williams with 44. Sam Darnold, was that the game that we played Sam Darnold rushing? It might have been.
I think it was,
Josh Allen with 54 and Drake May just last week with 38. So I could see Jordan Love taking off, getting like a 9-yard rush. I think they're a little bit more comfortable with his health after a few games back. And alternatively, you could go with the longest rush, which was 6.5. He's cleared that in less games, but it is less yardage. I kind of like the full thing.
Longest rush. That's interesting.
Right? Longest at 6.5, full at 8.5. I mean, the longest does protect you from, kneel downs at the end of the game if he gets it. But I don't know. I'd like the flexibility of having the multiple rushes to get there.
Yes.
All right. So that's on the Green Bay side. On the Houston side, did you have anything?
I think there's a couple good looks with Nico Collins being out. I think we can look to Tank Dell and Dalton Schultz here. Let's start with Dell. I like both these guys' receptions here. So I was just saying, the yardage for Stroud may not be the best look here. So like you were kind of alluding to earlier, not that Houston is a bad team, but maybe we'll stick with the reception. So Tank Dell over 4.5 receptions. I was minus 148 on FanDuel. So, maybe not a piece you want to play straight, but as a leg. In the 2 games he's played without Collins, notably both on the road, last week in New England, he had 7 catches on 9 targets. And the only other game was last season, towards the end of last season. They played at Cincinnati, where he had 6 catches on 14 targets in that game. So I think Stroud's going to look to him. The only difference is that, now they have Diggs in the rotation there. But, I still think I like Tank Dell quite a bit. And I think this is a nice spot for him with Collins out.
Yeah, it makes sense. I like Diggs' receptions as well. Mm-hmm. He's been super consistent this year, right? These are the 6 games that he's played in this year. He's had 4+ receptions. So if you want to be conservative with Dell, you could do Dell for 4 receptions and Diggs for 4 receptions, and I bet that gets you pretty close to plus money. So
yeah, and you can also tack on my other guys, Dalton Schultz. So I think you could tack on Schultz at 3 receptions if you wanted to in that one. In his 2 games without Nico Collins, the same 2 games, New England and Cincinnati, he had 4 receptions in both games, 8 targets in last week against the Patriots, 6 targets last season against the Bengals. And you have a great matchup. Tight ends against Green Bay is one of the better tight end matchups in the league so far this season. So I think that's another great spot.
Trey McBride just put up 8 receptions and Colby Parkinson 7 the game before. So, any combination of those, I think you can get a nice plus money play. Schultz at 3, Dell at 4, and Diggs at 4. I mean, that could be really nice. Really good hit rates there. All right, cool. Last one while we're on the Houston side. Put this one out in the Discord last night, so we secured a little early value on this one, but let's see where the line's at now. So Joe Mixon for 16.5 receiving yards. You can still get it on FanDuel for 16.5. The Packers are giving up the 9th most receiving yards to opposing running backs. Mixon in this new Houston setup has cleared this line in all 3 games that he's played this season. Again, he just returned from injury last week and put up 30 receiving yards against New England. What I liked is just the targets, right? He's had 3+ targets in every game, and he has had 2+ receptions in every game. So I think he's good for a nice little catch and run. And if you look at some of the comps, we've got plenty of running backs that have cleared this yard. And actually, every running back but Kyron Williams has cleared their mark against Green Bay this year. So.
I love it. He's like he is the primary back there. They're not going back to Cam Akers. His usage is way high. Running backs against Green Bay, averaging 6.2 targets, 5 receptions, 45 receiving yards per game so far this season. I love this spot for Joe Mixon.
All right, cool. I got a cat joining me here. All right. What do we go to next? Let's just talk about this game. I know you don't have picks on this game, but I would feel bad if we didn't cover this one. But Philly and New York, the return of Saquon, 42.5 point total. So not exactly the best game to bet overs, but do you like anybody in this game? Do you like anything for Saquon?
Yeah, I think. I mean, it's super high his rushing yards, right? But I think it's probably a pretty safe look in this game, going back into the Meadowlands to face the Giants. Right. But,
I think you know what though. I think maybe the safest bet on him is something with an anytime touchdown or it just feels like he's going to punch one in this game. I know he hasn't done it in a couple weeks. But honestly, without diving into details, the 2 guys that I thought were good looks are surprisingly on the Giants side. Neighbors and Slayton. Both receivers are in good spots against Philly. Philly's been giving up big yards. 9th most receiving yards to opposing wide receivers. Neighbors line is at 72.5, so that's kind of high, especially coming back from injury. Slayton seems like more of the value play at 31.5 receiving yards. Obviously, his targets were up when Neighbors was out, but if you want to just look at Darius Slayton, it's at 29.5, so you can get it even more value. It just opened up on FanDuel. You can see all the other books have it at 31.5. So I think that's a good look against the Philly team that is probably going to be leading in this game and forcing the Giants to throw. So that was kind of my main look on this one was Darius Slayton for 29.5 receiving yards.
Yeah, I like that. I was hesitant. I did like the matchup. I was just with Neighbors banged up with the concussion and reading. I didn't want to read too much into what Slayton did the last couple of weeks without Neighbors there, so I was a little hesitant.
I mean, he had 11 targets in each of the last 2 games. That's going to drop back down to probably 5. Again, reminder, we talked about this on a previous pod, but Props Like Cash offers this targets view which is really lines are really only posted, I think, by Prize Picks, but it's a good benchmark, right? So you go to the targets, you can see Slayton is projected for 4.5 targets. So then you could basically look back to the receptions or the receiving yards. You can look at how he's done when he's had 4 to 5 receptions or targets. Yeah.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah.
All right.
My favorite. Oh, no. My favorite look from this game, though, the lines aren't out yet, but just Saquon receiving. His line set at 2.5 receptions. So the alt lines are not out yet, but they will be. His 2.5 is like -110 on BetMGM, -115 on DraftKings. So you should get some nice value on him having two receptions. I feel like that's a amazing leg to a builder. You want to put together a running back reception builder, stick that with Joe Mixon, 2 receptions, a couple other guys we'll give out as the podcast goes on. I love Barkley, 2 receptions.
Maybe Pollard. You also talked about Pollard for 3 receptions.
Yep.
And then maybe Saquon for 2. And if that doesn't get you there, maybe you do 2 for Mixon or something like that.
We're cooking something up right now.
I'm writing down a lot of notes right now. So that's the beauty of this. We both come in with our notes, but then once we start talking about it, we don't really actually talk much about our picks before we go live, just so it's a little bit more organic.
Yeah.
The conversation, but usually Tim's the one who's cooking up props, parlays while we're going live.
Yeah.
All right, let's go to the game. I'm going to call this the game of the week. I usually wait for the Chiefs to call it that, but Detroit at Minnesota. This is very exciting. Detroit's 4-1. Minnesota's somehow 5-0. Minnesota's -1.5 at home.
That makes no sense.
Which makes no sense. I think Detroit might
makes
win.
No sense.
Detroit should win.
Detroit should be favored in this game.
Detroit should win by a touchdown in this game. I think Detroit is a significantly better team, but they just lost. What's his name? Hutchinson.
Yep.
Yeah, that's a big loss on defense. So I think if he was in this game, it probably would have been like a couple point swing, and they would have been. So I'm not sure they really understand the impact of that yet from a capping standpoint, but does seem that Minnesota's like outperforming their capabilities right now. So this could be the game to take advantage of. But regardless, both these teams give up a ton of passing yards, and that's why the total in this one is 50.5.
Yeah.
There's so many options in this one. It's just like how do you avoid missing out? Like you really gotta find the right probably 3 or 4 guys that are going to cash. So
there's a nice SGP to be made from this game.
Yeah, I think you have one already and I have one already. But what's your first play in this game?
All right. So I like let's look at Jared Goff passing yards. The reason I like this, so Minnesota has the highest quarterback pressure rate in the league this season. So you'd think, you typically see that and you're like, high pressure rate. Usually you would think that would negatively impact, the quarterback's production, right?
Yeah.
But he's actually been performing better under pressure than he has when he's not under pressure. So they faced Seattle, right? Who has the 3rd highest quarterback pressure rate, very comparable to Minnesota. Goff threw for 292 yards in that game. There you go. Dallas has the 4th highest quarterback pressure rate. As bad as they've been, they do pressure the quarterback. He had 315 yards last week against Dallas. Tampa Bay has the 8th highest quarterback pressure rate, and there you go, 307. You know who has the lowest quarterback pressure rate? Arizona. He threw for 199 yards against Arizona. So there's definitely a trend here. He's cleared this in his last 5 games against Minnesota. If you just click over to the Minnesota splits.
Versus Minnesota.
Up top.
Yeah. Wow.
5 straight against Minnesota. Twice getting over 300 yards. One more time at 296. So very close. So I love him to over 251.5. I love this spot for him. I also think Goff 300 plus yards at plus 290 is an awesome, to ladder this up. I think he easily, I think there's a very good chance he clears 300 yards in this game.
You can get it for 248.5 on DraftKings. So lock it in
Oh,
there.
there you go. There you go.
Even better value. Very nice. Yeah, I like Goff. Goff's on my fantasy team. Goff is I think he's probably one of the most underrated quarterbacks in the league. There's just such a stigma around kind of the first 5-6 years in the league. And he's really just been solid. Just really solid.
And playing a great, he's got great skill position players, on Dallas. They have on Detroit, they have a great offensive line. So he's just in a great position to perform. And I think these guys are going to rally around Hutchinson going down.
They already have a great culture. You could just tell it's all with Campbell. He just sets the tone of a very family oriented team, a team that is all business. He's no joke. I really wouldn't be surprised. I don't know if Detroit's got what it takes to win this year, especially with Hutchinson out, but I wouldn't be surprised if they win the Super Bowl in the next couple of years if they keep the right pieces there. They they're building something nice there. All right, what else do you like? Any receivers that Goff is going to be throwing to?
Yeah, I love pairing him. So we'll get to the pairing him in a second, but I love Jameson Williams in this spot. His line's 47.5 receiving yards, but besides one game where he was under, look what he's done. He's had 75 plus receiving yards in 4 of the 5 games this season.
Yeah.
I love this spot. The one game he was under was against Arizona. That was the game, remember, with the low quarterback pressure rate. The other games, look where he's clearing 75 plus receiving yards in those other games where Goff has performed really well as well. So I like his line of 47.5. I also love his longest reception at 21.5. Look at that. That's amazing. So seeing as though he besides that game against Arizona has had 75 plus receiving yards in 4 or 5 games, I like putting Goff 300 plus passing yards and Williams 70 plus receiving yards together. Get that at plus 520 on FanDuel for that 2-legger, highly correlated play. I think that's a great look.
Yeah, I mean, and his targets are projected on Prospects to be 5, right? So that's pretty good. I mean, the beginning of the season, he had 9 targets and 11 targets. I don't think that's happening. The yards are pretty astonishing considering the volume that he's getting tossed his way. That's why I'm always hesitant to play Williams because, I mean, look, in the game against Seattle, he only had 2 targets, but he still ended up with 80 yards.
Yeah.
So that's why, just like we did last week with Jordan from Breathe the Green, maybe the longest reception is the way to go, because I feel like if he doesn't get one of these 30-yarders, he's probably not going to clear his total receiving line. But again, this is the second best matchup. The best matchup, the number one matchup for wide receivers is Detroit.
Yeah.
And the number 2 matchup is Minnesota. So
I know.
it really doesn't get better than this. So I just think this is going to be a shootout. There's going to be so many air yards in this game. So yeah, I guess so. I guess both of them are good. This could be a 100-yard game for him.
And I think even that game last week, what did he have? 4 targets against Dallas. That was a blowout, right? And he saw 4 targets in this game. That's going to be competitive. That they're saying is minus 1.5 Minnesota favorite at 50.5 total. He's going to see more than 4 targets in this game. This is I'm looking forward to this one.
I think Denver was minus 1.5 last night too. Although nobody thought that was going to be competitive.
No.
All right. Yeah, I like that. What about anything on the Minnesota side? They also are in a great spot.
They are. I didn't really have anything on the Minnesota side. I don't know. I'm a little skeptical about them.
You think they're fraudulent?
I think they might be a little bit.
Justin Jefferson, probably the best receiver in the league.
Yeah.
You think is fraudulent? I mean, his line is crazy, right? 90. It was 91.5. It still is on FanDuel, but that seems high, man. That seems really high. I have a builder. We'll drop it in the Discord later, but I have a builder that just has him going up to 50 or maybe 60 yards in this game. I think that's a nice way of approaching him. But I think the value play in this game again is, I mean, Jefferson could easily put up 150 yards in this game, but I think the value play in this game is actually on Jordan Addison. And again, his line is creeping up. It was at like 48 just earlier today, and I think it's already up to 51. I also have Jordan Addison as part of that builder for 25 receiving yards, which again is like a minus 500 leg. Actually, here you go. You can still get him for 47.5 on FanDuel, but yeah, 25 yards is the way I'm approaching Addison. So again, just like you, I'm not playing any straights on the Minnesota side. But I am gonna probably take Jefferson for like 50 or 60 and Addison for 25, and then combine it with some of the other guys that we talked about.
So you like any reason why you went Addison 25 at minus 500 as opposed to so I really liked Addison 3 receptions at minus 360. So you're getting slightly better odds there. I guess you didn't. You like the fact that he was clearing it a bit more.
Yeah, he's got more buffer. You know, it could be one, especially in this game. It could be one catch. You know, as long as reception. I mean, look at that. He's cleared the 25 yards in just one catch, whereas the receptions he's just getting there 3, 3, and 3, and his targets other than last week are pretty low, 4 and 4. So I think you get better value at 3 receptions, I'm sure, in the builder, but I think the 25 is probably a little safer. So
I hear you.
Yeah, so I like those guys as components. I like Williams, and I also, you know, we didn't really talk about him because I think we're still mad at him from week 1, but Amon-Ra St. Brown receptions, I think, is also a great leg. I had him for 4 receptions as part of that builder as well. So
we hold grudges for a long time. Like by week 17, we have no players left to play. Cortland Sutton's on that list for sure. Yeah, so St. Brown for 4 should get 4 receptions easily in this game. Yeah. So I basically just gave you the builder. If you kind of play back the last 2 minutes, all those components will get you somewhere around plus 100, plus 115, something like that. All right, let's move on. We got another high-scoring game: Seattle and Atlanta. Love it.
Seattle's 3-3 going into this week. Atlanta is 4-2. Atlanta's -3 at home. Total is 51.5. What do you like in this game?
Like a few things from this game. So I think let's look here. Where do I want to start? So Carolina played Atlanta last week, right? Carolina has Andy Dalton at quarterback. Carolina is like the worst team in the NFL by far. I think maybe the Patriots are, might give them a run for their money, but they're right up there. Even Carolina, as bad as they are, we're moving the ball on Atlanta. They're just they're horrendous, and they were getting the job done against Atlanta. Seattle has the #1 passing offense this season. Atlanta has the 3rd lowest quarterback pressure rate. Why do I like that particularly? So it's kind of the opposite. I was saying Goff, we liked seeing a high pressure rate against him because he'd been performing better. It's kind of the opposite here for Geno. Seattle has a lot of trouble. Their offensive line has a lot of trouble blocking. Not a great, blocking win rates, whether it's running or passing. So the fact that Atlanta is not going to pressure them is going to help Geno. Given the fact that his offensive line is not that great. Andy Dalton threw the ball 38 times, 26 completions for 221 yards in that game. Now, obviously, that's not Geno's line is higher than that, but he's got a much more potent offense to work with. So I think we can look at Geno a few different ways here. I like his passing yards are creeping up. They were 259 earlier.
Yeah, you can get it 259.5 on FanDuel.
Okay. As you can see, 5 straight games. So I think that's one way to look at him. The other way, I think his completions are also nice at 24.5. He's also done that in 5 straight games. Like I said, Andy Dalton with that terrible Carolina offense had 26 completions against Atlanta last week. And his attempts also 35.5 pass attempts. He's done in 4 of 5. Just had 34 in that one game. I think that was Miami, kind of a non-competitive game. So I think there's a couple different looks on Geno. If you had to pick, what's feeling like your favorite of the 3?
I like the completions. I didn't look at that. I mean, I do like the pass yards, and I do like the completions. I'm looking at what opposing quarterbacks have done against Atlanta. And despite all the stats, like a lot of them aren't really crossing.
They don't really. The problem is they don't really have to, right? So maybe the completions are better in that way, right? I think they end up running the ball a lot because Carolina is just so bad, right? That you're not needing to throw the ball as much, right? I mean, sorry, what am I saying? Atlanta. Sorry,
yeah. But some of these were like competitive games, like Baker Mayfield, like 180 yards. I don't know. I do like the passing yards. I think he'll get there. I think he'll certainly get to 250 if you want to do it as part of a builder. But that completions is very intriguing. I'm looking at Andy Dalton, like you said, at 26.
Yeah.
Carr at 28. Mahomes at 26. So
yeah, that might be the play.
And Geno's been good either way, right? Like it's highly correlated, his completions and his yards. So I do like that, and I really like a bunch of the receivers on the Seattle side to get receptions as well. So those are pretty hand in hand with obviously completions. So all right, I like that. You got anybody else on Seattle?
I do. Where are we? Let me get my notes together here. I like I think I also like Cousins passing yards. They have a mutual opponent in Tampa Bay. What?
500 yards. I forgot about that one.
Yeah. So, you have a guy like Jared Goff, who I think, it's kind of a pretty good comp for Cousins here. He threw for 307 against Tampa Bay. He threw for 292 against Seattle. Cousins threw for 509 against Tampa Bay. So I think it matches up well. Tampa Bay has the 8th highest quarterback pressure rate. Seattle has the 3rd highest quarterback pressure rate. So that similar style defense they're going to see, attacking the quarterback here. If you look in the last 3 weeks, you got it up right there. Purdy, Jones, and Goff all went over their passing yard lines. And then the 3 weeks, this is probably dragging the numbers down a little bit, but the first 3 weeks, I mean, we're talking about Skylar Thompson, Jacoby Brissett, and Bo Nix in his rookie debut, right? So, you can kind of throw those out, all those sub 150-yard passing games. I think, the last 3 weeks are much more what you're going to see, and they're much more comparable quarterbacks to Kirk Cousins than Thompson, Brissett, and Nix. So I think this is a nice spot for Cousins as well.
Yeah, I think that's nice. I'm thinking I might cook up something like an alted for both Cousins and Geno.
Yeah,
like maybe something like 225 for each of them and a passing touchdown for each of them or something like that.
There we go.
I could see that giving you somewhere around plus money. So
yeah,
got the manual parlay builder going on in my head right now. All right. Anybody on the Atlanta side?
So on the Atlanta side, I mean, here's the matchups that I like against Seattle. So Seattle, to opposing running backs, they've allowed the 2nd most yards before contact, the 3rd most yards after contact. Usually those should be inversely related. When they're not, that's always something that, puts a little green flag up in my in my model here. And they've also, and just the 3rd most rushing yards overall. So I think, it seems like a good spot. We're talking about how the quarterbacks are going to throw for so many yards in this game. It seems a little counterintuitive to then go say Bijan's going to also clear his rushing line. But, I think it's a good matchup for him. He's also a good pass catching back as well. And they have a nice matchup against Seattle. Seattle's allowed the second most receiving yards per target and the second most receiving yards per reception. So they've running backs have been able to break some nice receptions against them. They've allowed 12 yards per reception to opposing running backs this season, second most in the league after Dallas, I believe. So I think something on Bijan, maybe a rush and receiving, if your book offers that, might be. Were you looking at Bijan?
I was. I'm in the camp of people that have gotten burned by Bijan. Like probably the 6 out of 8 times I've played him in his career. Usually you miss by a catch, an attempt, 5 yards, whatever. But he redeemed himself last week against Carolina, and so did Algier, who had 105 rushing yards. So the way I approach this, like especially since we think this is going to be a pass heavy game, but we do think that there's an opportunity for rushing in this game as well. You can do Bijan for 50 rushing yards and Algier for 25 rushing yards. So they both get a little piece of the pie. And that's minus 104 on FanDuel. So that's kind of a way to do it. It's an odd way to do it because you are kind of having 2 guys who are stealing carries from each other, both going for the same objective. But I don't know. That's another way. Or feel free to throw Kenneth Walker in that builder as well. He probably got some yards too.
Yeah.
All right. I also like Lockett for 3 receptions in this game and Metcalf for 3 or 4 receptions in this game, but neither of those were up on FanDuel yet. So I'm going to be keeping an eye out on those and probably throwing those into a builder as well.
Yes, I had those. Just trying to find my notes right here. Yeah, you said Lockett for 4.
Lockett for 3. I think Lockett gets 4 as a straight play. But if I was just saying builder legs, Lockett for 3, Metcalf for 4, 3 or 4. I think those are also nice ways to kind of add to any builder that you have.
Yeah, I think in this game where we're talking about we're liking both quarterbacks to have nice nice passing days. I think a nice reception builder is here. Look at Drake London. Even at this straight line of 5.5 over 5.5 receptions. I mean, he's cleared, I think, in every game or the last few. Where is that?
Receptions.
Yeah.
He's at 6+ receptions in every game.
Yeah.
So
five straight games.
I think between this Detroit Minnesota game and the Seattle Atlanta game, you can just kind of take a lot of these guys and just bring them down 10-20% on their line and just put all those components together and get some really good value. Because if these live up to be 50-point games, then there's going to be a lot of offense. So I think you got plenty of choices on these ones.
Yeah. I also like Bijan at 3 receptions, Kenneth Walker at 3 receptions. I think those are all nice legs. So take a look at those as well.
Nice. All right. Just going to breeze over 2 games real quick. Cincinnati at Cleveland. Cleveland's getting 5.5 at home. 41.5 total. We don't really like a lot in this game, but I just wanted to point out it is the return of Nick Chubb. And I think he clears his 42.5 rushing yards. So I wouldn't go too crazy on it because you don't really know unless you get some more insight into how many carries he's gonna get. I don't even think his rush attempts line was posted yet. So take a look at that when that gets posted. That may help give you some comfort. But if you've ever seen Nick Chubb in the weight room, this guy is going to come out firing, man. He's such a beast. It's a decent matchup. Cincinnati's given up the 14th most rushing yards to opposing running backs. So I think Nick Chubb lands at 50+. I think he's a good value play this week.
Yeah, I think so. If he's back and he's healthy, Deshaun Watson has sucked. So, they're going to be like, just hand the ball off to Chubb and let's see what he could do.
And my guess, I didn't even dive into it, but my guess is Jerome Ford is still out, right? He went down last week. So I think that's going to put even more load on Nick Chubb as well. I haven't seen
any lines, so I would assume, yeah.
Miami at Indy. Indy's -3 at home, totals 43.5. I like one play in this one. I like Tyreek for 56.5 receiving yards. Tyreek's line when Tua was in there was like 80 yards, right?
Yeah.
You're getting such a discount. If you want to be safe, you can play him for 4 receptions, which I think is also just a huge steal. Let's pull up his stats. Look at him for 4.5 receptions is -113.
Yeah.
So you can get 4 receptions for pretty good value. I think Huntley is the quarterback now, and he has been for the last 2 weeks. So he seems to be connecting a little better with Tyreek, and Tyreek had a big receiving game, 69 yards last week. So I think Tyreek at 56.5 against this atrocious Indy pass defense. They're giving up the 7th most receiving yards to opposing wide receivers, including 88 yards to Kirk, 122 to Thomas, 113 to Pickens. I think Tyreek's going to have a day.
Yeah. Did you look at Waddle too? I had Waddle on my list.
Waddle is good too. I actually really like playing both of their receptions together a lot of times.
Yes.
Like Waddle is like a 4 reception magnet. I mean, I think if you go back, right? Like,
yeah. And that's -128 on FanDuel for his straight line. Yeah.
So honestly, if you want to be super conservative, I think you can do Waddle for 3 receptions and Tyreek for 4 receptions. I think that'll get you there.
Yeah,
or pretty close to something playable. So I think that's nice. Didn't have a lot on this game, but there is a really good passing opportunity for Miami in this one.
Yes.
All right, next one. This is another 50-point game. We got Carolina, who you just trashed, 1-5. It's hard to argue that, the Saints might be worse than Carolina. I don't know, man. Like with Derek Carr comes back, that debate's over. But right now, they looked really bad last night. But Carolina, at least for these Sunday slate, is definitely the worst team on the board. They're going up against Washington. Imagine the Washington Commanders are -8 points. Who would ever think that would happen?
No.
Total is 51.5. Not a lot of lines out in this game, but a couple spots that both of us liked. You wanna share?
Yeah, I think rushing against Carolina is a great spot here. Obviously, you have Washington as the overwhelming favorite at home, so always a good spot to look at. Home favorites. Rushing is always a good spot to start looking at some things. They also have a great mismatch. Washington has like a top 3 or 4 run block win rate. I think Carolina has the worst, or bottom 2 or 3 run stop win rate. So huge mismatch on the lines there for rushing. So I think the only thing is you only see Jaden Daniels. I don't know if he's the one who gets it. You feel like, in a game where they're probably going to be up, why risk, rushing him and just hand that ball off to whoever ends up being in the backfield for Washington. Eckler, Robinson, right? I think Robinson's the one that's banged up.
Yeah, I'm reading right now. He's trending 2 hours ago. CBS Sports said Brian Robinson trending in the right direction. So it looks like he'll probably play. But quite honestly, Eckler's been great. Can't pull up his props here on Props Like Cash, but just pulling up his stats for the last couple weeks, especially last week, right? Rushing wise, he was okay. 9 carries for 21 yards. But receiving, he had 47 receiving yards. So, but that was against a really tough Baltimore rushing defense, right? The week prior to that, he went up against Cleveland and put up 67 rushing yards on just 6 carries. So, I think I would probably play Eckler when the lines come out, especially if Brian Robinson's banged up, even if he plays.
Yeah.
Number one. Rushing yards allowed out of any team in the league. I mean, look at this.
Yeah.
95,
both
105.
Bijan and Algier.
Yeah, in one game you give up 200 rushing yards to the opposing running backs. 73 to Swift, who hasn't been doing anything really. Chase Brown 80, J.K. Dobbins 131, Kamara 83. That's crazy, man.
Yeah,
they're hard to watch.
Yeah.
Zach Ertz, I think, is also in a good spot. Zach Ertz, 29.5 receiving yards. He seems to be a favorite target of Jaden Daniels. Let's see. I'm going to look at his receptions, actually, because I think he's also a really nice builder component. 3 receptions, 4 receptions. I think they're both good options. Sorry, two receptions or 3 receptions. He's had 3 in every game. 5 out of 6 games this season. So, and then his receiving yards are good too. So I think Ertz is a nice option in this game as well. You can see what some tight ends have done. Our favorite guy, Kyle Pitts, put up 70. Cole Kmet, 57. Eric All, 28. Lots of guys crushing.
Yeah.
So, all right. And
Not
the other game of the week. Casey, I mean, this really is the game of the week. Offensively, those other games are going to be probably more fun to watch. But in terms of a competitive battle, Super Bowl rematch, 2 heavy hitters. KC 5-0, 49ers 3-3. 49ers are -2. Totals 46.5. So this is an away game for KC, but you know what Andy Reid does with some time off. He just had the bye week. He's lots of preparation for this one. I didn't have a lot in this game. I'll give out my look. I really like George Kittle in this game.
Yeah,
I mentioned this to you. Yeah. Tight ends. Chiefs are giving up the most receiving yards to opposing tight ends. I was ready to hammer this when I first saw it, but then I did notice a recent trend. If you look at the comps here on props.cash, you notice Isaiah Likely had 111, Gesicki 91, Kyle Pitts 59. But then over the last 2 games, obviously the tight end caliber dropped off significantly, but so did the yards. So I ended up just running back a play that we put out for week 6. Did George Kittle for 40 receiving yards, which he's done in every game this season. And I paired that again, just like we did last week, with Brock Purdy for 225 passing yards, which he's done in every game this season as well. So, and actually, if you look at his last 20 games and you take this down to 225, Brock Purdy has done this in 224.5 passing yards. He's done this in 18 of his last 20 games, 14 straight. So I like that pair. That gets you to -115. Run that back. Sometimes you don't need to reinvent the wheel, but you like Kittle straight up for his
I like him straight up. I thought the same thing. I saw the same thing you did. Obviously, the quality, the talent has gone down the last couple of weeks at the tight end position that they faced. But so I even went into the model and I took out that week 1 game where Lively just went off. KC still allowed the most catchable targets and the most receptions to opposing wide receivers, even factoring out that game against that week 1 game against Baltimore. So I think it's still a good matchup. So I like his straight line, and also love I love the play you gave out to him.
Yeah, I mean Kittle, this season has had 4+ receptions in every game, right? If you look at, he's got a pretty good hit rate over the last 20 games, 70% hit rate over the last 20, and then again, if you take that down to 40, you capture all the games this season. So I went conservative just because I don't know. I like hit rates, and we also cashed on that play easily. So let's just run it back. Let's not reinvent the wheel.
Yeah, I think he crushed last time they played in San Francisco. It was 2 years ago. He had a big game.
He had nothing in the Super Bowl.
He didn't.
But then he had. But I think he's you always got to be careful looking back because Kittle, as you pointed out to me, is banged up half of these games. Yeah. So he could be playing on one leg. But seems healthy right now. So hopefully he has a big enough game to clear our bets, but a small enough game where the Chiefs still win.
Yeah. You like Mahomes rushing in this game? And these are the type of games that we usually like to look at Mahomes rushing, right?
I mean, we like to
I didn't look at
every
it yet. I just thought about, wow, 20.5.
Yeah, I mean that's kind of where he's been at. If you remember, we talked about it last time we were going over the Chiefs. The longest rush, I think, is usually a better value play on him. That was 9.5 last time we talked about it, and he did end up on 9. So he just missed it. So yeah, it does feel like this will be a game. Purdy's also a good option. I mean, look at Purdy's longest rush as well, and I think quarterbacks against KC. I've been having some good success rushing the ball. No, sorry. It was all just Lamar Jackson with 122. Lamar Jackson is just like he's like Luka in the basketball models. He just like throws everything off, you know?
Yes.
Like
Yeah. Well, I think he has the like 5th most rushing yards this season, regardless of position, right?
He's such an incredible player.
Yeah.
Mahomes, I don't know if I'd play him at 20.5, but I do think this could be a game where he gets plenty of attempts. Maybe he plays rushing attempts instead at 4.5, something like that.
Yeah.
The only other look I had on the Chiefs side was on the passing side. I do like Xavier Worthy. Not really great hit rates, but I did like the attempts that we saw with Rice out. He had 6+ attempts. Targets in that last game. So I do think he's in a prime spot for to kind of have one of these like larger games. If you don't like that, he is also kind of a deep ball threat. Despite missing his receiving yards by a good amount last game, he did only miss the longest by half a yard. So you could also play him for 18.5. So
nice. I like that. Yeah. His targets are kind of trending up.
Trending up.
Yeah.
Any commentary on Jets Steelers before we close? It is a 38.5 point total, which means we should probably lay off, but that is the Sunday night game.
Yeah.
Do you need a little more time to think about that one?
I would say if you could bet Adams to have the first reception of the game, I would I would bet that. But other than that, I don't know. Against this Steelers team, that it's a super low total. I kind of want to wait and see how Adams factors into the offense here, and
I would say there's a really good chance he gets a touchdown in this game, right?
Yeah.
So maybe we do like just like a New York homecoming play, like Saquon for a touchdown and Devontae Adams for a touchdown. Two guys getting back to their roots. And
all right, I like that. I like that.
All right, cool.
All right, very nice. Happy anniversary again to Prop the Mic. 2 years in the books. Thanks everyone for tuning in. Remember, limited time only. Go out, use that PTM 50 discount code for Props.cash. Test it out. This is how we find all our plays. This is why the units are up. So make use of it. We've only had a 25% discount for the history of our relationship with Props.cash. So this is a huge opportunity to get in. Like Dave said, already at a pretty reasonable price. So do that while you can, and everyone enjoy the games, and let's all make some money.
Let's go. All right. Not a ton of people up there.
Not a ton of people live, but it's going to also be. I think we got to wait and see. How it.
Right now, it's going to get promoted. Yeah,
it's going to keep getting promoted over the weekend. Yeah. So now we'll actually see it. We'll see.
Big Tone just retweeted us too. So.
Oh yeah. There we go.
50,000 eyeballs.
There was a note on somebody said on YouTube that our mics were clipping /static on both speakers. I don't know. It was weird.
Really?
To see what it sounds like once we can play it back. But I don't know. That was weird.
I think.
What?
I think I think Tone said he would get back to us today.
Big Tone.
Hopefully,
Big pun.
Hopefully he joins us.
Big pun.
It is kind of cool that we have a podcast. There's not a lot of people who do this that have like a recurring podcast, you know?
Like Twitter cappers, you mean?
Hmm?
Yeah. 2 years.
2 freaking years. Are you sure it was today?
I got the balloons, and you didn't get the balloons on X? I'm pretty sure it was October 18th was the first pod. Yeah.
You know, I thought it was today, and then I was like, I didn't get the balloons on X. So, yep, October 18th, because I put it as our birthday for
Yeah.
X.
Yeah. That's when I saw the balloons.
Yeah.
I remember you had done
It
that.
probably only serves it once. Like you probably saw it, but I was like, why did we not? I figured it was tomorrow, but yeah, no, 18th is right.
Yeah.
That's cool.
Yeah.
Good stuff, man.
Yes, sir. I'm glad I realized that.
Big intro.
It was a big intro.
Oh, I might join this town hall for Dub Club just to listen in for a little bit.
Oh, it started right now?
Yeah, you don't have
Okay.
to. I mean, you can if you want.
Yeah, I'll put it on in the background here and cook up whatever this big parlay is going to be.
Do you have?
We're putting this big parlay out?
Yeah, just send it to me and I'll put it in and we'll just post the slip.
What do we want? Like plus 10,000?
Honestly, the one that I sent you was plus 2,000 the other day.
Yeah.
Like I don't think it needs to be like
Yeah.
life-changing money. I think if it's over 1,000 plus 1,000, people get excited. As long as if you put $25 on it,
So then why don't we do Cousins,